Welcome to the Museum MFIT's Fashion Culture Online series. My name is Tania Melendez Escalante, and I am Senior Curator of Education and Public Programs. It is my honor to introduce Uruguayan-born fashion designer Gabriela Hearst, who is the winner of the 2016-17 International Woolmark Prize for Womenswear and the 2020 CFDA American Womenswear Designer of the Year Award, among others. In December of 2020, Hurst was appointed the new creative director for Chloé. She will speak in conversation with MFIT Director and Chief Curator, Dr. Valerie Steele. Enjoy the show.
I thought I'd begin by asking you about the arc of your life and career. You were born in Uruguay, in Latin America, and how has that influenced your life and work?
I think it's basically the root and the source of everything I do and how I move myself in the world as a professional and as a human being, because you learn so much when you grow up in such a remote place, and also you're well rooted because your family's been there for a long time. My mom still lives there, and it's gonna be 170 years my family's there. It's already been, actually. And she still lives off the grid. And she still carries herself with those values that I was brought up with. And I learned there basically the two columns where we build Gabriela Hearst in, which is long-term view and sustainability. So it's everything I am. And I always like this quote that somebody said, which was, you can take the girl out of the country, but not the country out of the girl. And I always feel that, you know, at the heart of everything, even if I've been living in New York City for 21 years, I'm still a farm girl.
Beautiful. And this is your mother on the horse, a picture of her. Wow, yeah. That's gorgeous.
She was 19 years old. And this was a period of her life where she was competing in rodeo. And she was this is in now her ranch, and that time my grandfather's ranch. And she was competing in rodeo, the only female competing in rodeo in a men's arena. So she really was, from a very young age, showing me that the world for a woman wasn't as limited, right? So I grew up really with a certain matriarchy forces behind me. And the picture of me as a little kid, which is also in the ranch, I was probably that age or maybe a year older, where I have one of my first memories, which is my mom being thrown by a horse and hitting the ground, and then blood coming out of her mouth, her teeth falling, and walking towards me like nothing had happened. And I had this conversation with her recently where I was like, you know, do you remember this? Da, 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 da. And she remembered the horse. And she's like, how do you remember? I'm like, because it was traumatic, Mom. But the thing is that there was so much strength and courage, right? And I feel that that's always the type of woman that I'm inspired by, because they have this bravado, but at the same time they have an emotional fragility that this bravado is hiding in a way. So it always intrigued me, that type of projection, right? There's androgyny. Androgyny is the right word that I'm looking for. It's this androgyny that you can be both, right?
And what were you like as a child?
You know, it's very, was very, like every child, very molded by my background, and the same as everyone. We all think that whatever circumstances we brought up is the normal, right? But it took me a long time till my husband told me, you know, it's not normal. And for me, it was, you know, growing up in a place with hundreds of horses and a really long landscapes. I mean, large pieces of land where you only are confronted with nature. And so I think it really form my brain too, because there was not a lot of the disruptions that kids have today. Like in Uruguay, even if I was born in 1976, it was quite conservative, and obviously this was pre-globalization. So the only thing in the ranch was radio and books and magazines and your imagination. So my imagination was really my toy.
Yes.
And so that is really how it shaped me.
So are you the little girl or the baby here?
I'm the baby, and that's my father and my mom. And what I love about this picture, and there's everything you see is there's always a handmade element. Where first of all, there's a lot of gauchos in the background, which was like obviously the normal for me.
Yes.
But I love how gauchos dress. And my mom is wearing this knitted sweater that it's made from the wool of the farm, and you can see the black sheep and the white and it's not dyed. It's just knitted, and I just love the colors too. And it's very much a place where I've always take my aesthetics from.
Yes. Let's look at the next one, because I think that shows it too, even more.
That's actually my foreman, Sebastian, and myself in my ranch, which I inherited from my father's ranch. And Sebastian is kind of a brother to me, in the sense that he went to work with my father when he was 18. So my father raised him in a way, in his professional way and his value system. So we're very close, and it's kind of having my father's thinking still alive.
That's nice. Now, how would you describe the Gabriela Hearst style?
I always try to achieve a sort of timeless in the way I do things. I'm not very trend-based, and sometimes it happens that I hit trends, but it's just because I feel like I live in New York and for 21 years, and I walk New York every day, or really I try to do a big long walk in New York a week, right? And different parts of New York at all times in different periods, because you feel the subconscious. It's one of my favorite things, like headphones with music in my ears and just perceiving New York, right? From the side of your eye, and there's always feeding you. And so I think that is also the part that influenced my design. And so I'm mixing these two worlds, the rural and the urban. And I've always feel like, what an extreme, right? I grew up in the middle of nowhere and I live in New York. And I think that I came, especially during COVID, I came to the conclusion, because I've lived here for September 11, the blackout, 2008. And last year, and I never left. And I think that what it is that I feel in both places is a grit, right? There's a grit to New York, and there's a grit to living in the country. And so I think within what I design, there's also a grit, because the pieces have to last. So there's a lot of research in order to have these pieces well made, which is the most sustainable thing that you can do, that have the know-how of making sure that using materials that are far away from herbicides and pesticides that are killing our insect world, and one of the problems that we have with biodiversity. So I really make sure that we're choosing ingredients that are last longing, of high quality, with a low impact in the world. And then that added a sense of design that hopefully you want to wear it the rest of your life. That's how I think about objects and pieces.
Yes. Why do you think that sustainability is so important to you?
I think that for me, sustainability is the most important thing that for everyone right now. It's like saying, is survival important to you? I mean, I don't know if you're in New York right now.
Yes.
But you saw yesterday, I mean, the air, it frightens me, right? The fires that are 2,000 miles away, Well, that's the whole point where I try to explain with the work, where we're an ecosystem. It's going to affect us all. And I learned it really in an intensive way when I was in Africa in the drought in 2017 of what climate injustice is. And what concerns me the most right now is that everything that's being predicted by scientists, all the warning signs, everything happened with precision and a little bit faster than we expected on certain areas. But the moment is absolutely now. I think here's where we have the opportunity to really turn. This is the decade that by all means, by all scientists, is the decade that we really commit to the change, and we can do it. I grew up in South America, as we've mentioned, and the ozone layer was very thin in that part of the world. And I had developed skin cancer at a very young age, at 26 years old, the basal cell ones. And I remember there was it was a big thing when scientists realized that the ozone layer was thin, and there was a huge commitment by the global community in order to answer to this issue. And I feel that we haven't been listening to the scientists for a long time. And I think right now we're all experiencing, in the developing world, in the developed world, is affecting us all. We cannot just say this is someone else's problem anymore. So I think that it's all the strength is pointing right now to action. Right now is going to be the moment of action in these next few years.
Yes. What is this on the wall over the sofa in this slide?
This is very interesting. This is my husband's Phoebe Apperson Hurst blanket that she quilted herself. So it's in the store, and it has all these basically leftover fabrics that she hand did, and it's repurposed, obviously. And it has the herringbone pattern, which is something that we use in our collection, but it has such beauty. And I've always thought it was the first thing to put in the store. And it's quite beautiful.
Yes. Let's look at the next one too, because the next picture also.
That is our store in London,
yes.
Which is made with Norman Foster, which is one of the pioneers of architectural design. And this has so many elements, this picture. You have the floors that are actually old barrack floors from the Second World War in the herringbone pattern. All the furniture that you see there it's London pine trees that got fallen in a storm. And you can see that the furniture is all curved, and it follows the curve it's a beautiful, beautiful store. That's the basement of the store, that we also made it as a sitting area and an environment where we can have, hopefully soon again, events to sit down and talks.
Yes, lovely. So this is not your typical hangers.
No, this is something that I'm really proud of. It's a commitment that we did in 2018 to get rid of plastic hangers in our production, because 99% of the plastic hangers end up in landfills, and these are recycled cardboard hangers. And one thing that's an interesting fact, America is very good at recycling cardboard. It's one of the things that we're very good at recycling. So these are actually the first version. These hangers have evolved. We've had like different iterations, but it really makes me proud, because we had to push some of our retail partners to understand that even if it didn't match their vendor manual, this was the way that we needed to move forward. So there was a lot of commitment to the cause in this achievement.
This is very cool. Let's look at the next one, because this is really effective, what you're doing.
This is a biodegradable, compostable garment bag. And we developed from scratch with TIPA. And Now I am working as well for Chloé, and in Chloé they have bigger teams. So when we brought them the materials, I was so happy for them to answer to the fact that this was the best in the market for this purpose. And the garment bags were done by scratch, so now other designers can do it. So all the development that we have done is open for other people to use, which makes you very proud, because the impact that you have as a small luxury brand, it's lower compared to bigger brands.
This is marvelous. And this is in use.
Yes, this has been in use for a couple of years already. We were quite pioneers on this. And the inside, it's the Lauren sweater, which is hand knitted by Manos de Uruguay, which is a non-for-profit in Uruguay. So in this photo, you're seeing two things that matter: the social impact and the environmental impact of a product.
This is really beautiful and inspiring. Let's see the next one. Talk to me a little bit about your style and about, how it's developed, some of the clothes that you're proudest of designing. Tell us about this collection, Spring Summer 2021.
This is a beautiful, beautiful collection. I am really proud of this collection, especially because it was shown in Paris. We designed it during COVID. We did 3 collections during COVID. We never stopped. And we managed to create something with a lot of hope. And in this collection specifically, the idea was that we were looking at the entrails of the pandemic. And there was a lot of subconscious work. There was a lot of dreams, and there was a lot of the subconscious speaking through the collection. And I'm extremely proud of this because it really was a joy.
It's beautiful.
And you see so many here too. You see the 2 components that you see the dress with the tassels. That's stock cashmere.
Yes.
The tassels are made all by hand. Then the Runa sort of poncho in the coat that you see, it's made by a non-for-profit in Bolivia with recycled cashmere. And then all the beading and the handwork that it has the dress underneath. So you have both the sustainability and the social impact again addressed in this.
And the result is clothes that you want to keep forever, that are really precious.
Oh yes, it really, my mom, which is said to me recently a compliment that I know what she meant, and it was and we're not come from a family that give each other too many compliments. I just want to FYI that. And she said to me, because she was looking about different clothing, and she said, what I love about the pieces that you do with your team is the fact that they feel like real, they feel authentic. Yes. And they are real clothes.
Beautiful. I love this next image. Is this an inspiration board?
Yes, this is so there's a few things going on here. There's Hildegard Virgin in the first one, which was the inspiration for the fall 2021 collection. And she was very much, how can I explain? She was a nun on the Middle Ages that if she was born a man, we would know her like we would know Leonardo da Vinci. She was a polymath, knew languages, knew medicine, knew art, and had this vision. So that's one of her visions of the world. And she was an ecologist, an environmentalist in the Middle Ages. And then in the next picture is Phoebe Apperson Hurst. I love those sleeves. Yeah. And then there is Mia Farrow next to flowers that were drawn by my daughter, Mia. And those flowers became the print of the collection.
Beautiful. Oh, here they are. Here are the flowers.
Yeah, they're crocheted here. They became 3D. And then you have the herringbone pattern. And you can see this kind of severe, no, I wouldn't say severe, but this more restrained, nun sort of look. And you see the herringbone.
It's very elegant. It's very cool, restrained.
I love that trench. I love Paloma. Yeah. It's such a good trench. That one also is one of those ideas that come from like a part of my brain. They just show up and I obsess with a sleeve. I have a lot of sleeves ideas. Sleeves just come to my head. Yeah. I'm working on a sleeve now. It's a kind of a strange thing, but it's kind of, I just see the sleeve.
Sleeves are a really important way to get an aesthetic across in a way that's wearable and natural.
Yes, it's true. Charles James was very good at, Charles James was good at everything, but his sleeves. My mother-in-law, my husband's wife, was a patron of Charles James. I think she did a lot of work costing Hurst for FIT as well.
Yes.
Had all these sleeves. It's beautiful to see pictures of her with all these interesting sleeves as well. This is the Chapman bag, which is two things. It's a doctor's bag with a secret compartment and then a tote with silk macrame. So it's what we would commonly refer to as a twofer.
Yes. Yes.
And then she's wearing a knit wool silk dress and leather pants underneath.
Beautiful.
Oh, you got them all good. So this is our resort collection. So I was I had this obsession about creating these landscape sweaters that would depict certain key places on the Americas, North, South, and Central. And this one is Central America, and it's the Temple of Tenochtitlan. Oh. This collection was inspired by the Hipitecas, which were the followers of the movement La Movida, the cultural movement in the late 60s. And then you have the skirt with recycled cashmere. You have the boots, that a lot of our boots have this EVA recycled sole. And then the next outfit is actual lace that we custom made with the walls of the Mayan temples, of the ruins. So it actually has this sacred geometry that we replicated in the lace.
Beautiful. And the belt buckle also is really organic and lovely.
And the cashmere is dead stock cashmere on that skirt.
Another reason to love it. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's the Mabel, which is a really an engineering feat, the way this crossover little bag, you can put your cell phone in it, you can put your credit card. It's really this sort of object from another era in a way that fits the modern style. Because the way it opens and the way it closes, it has a type of craftsmanship that is very rare to see today in handbags or leather good pieces. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it has the functionality of the modern day. And then the next piece is all hand crochet recycled cashmere, that is a tank top with a skirt, and the skirt itself, the fabric of the skirt, is a dead stock cotton.
Great. And I wonder, you just had mentioned before how you put together 3 collections during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about how your life has changed since the pandemic hit New York, and what were the challenges of creating fashion during that long, long year?
Well, I think the first one was that we couldn't be together, but we managed to work. And I mean, it's always amazing to see human ingenuity at work in finding ways. And this is where creative people, I have so much admiration, because I think creativity is what is a problem-solving tool above all. And so you find a way. And it was an episode. I've been more scared, to be honest, about, I am more scared about the climate crisis than COVID, because I knew we would overcome COVID. But what COVID has gave me hope was that we were able to change our habits really quickly. So I think we are able, now we know that we can change our habits very quickly in order to succeed in the climate crisis, which, you know, is a mantra I repeat myself every day: climate success, climate success. But it's really the fact that we have to change the way we think and the way we act. And what COVID was a time of a lot of recalibration, I would say. But and also the experience that we went globally. One is one of those rare times that globally we experience something, and as the same as the climate crisis, we need to all get out of it together. It's not going to work if it's, you know, it's still COVID in one part of the world and not in another. So it's something that we still need to do together as a species. And so it was, I would say, they were challenging, interesting, growing times.
Yeah, I hope you're right that people can continue to try and work together and change things. I just remember, I'm so old, I remember the first Earth Day, and you think, wow, we wasted half a century. We really have to act now.
Yeah, 50 years. Yeah. And everything that's been predicted from the first Earth Day to now has occurred to extreme accuracy. And I think that, as I am a true believer that the moment is now, and the destruction that we have already occurred has happened, but there is hope that we can still create, there's a regeneration power that our environment has, that, you know, if it's going to be about a fight with the trees will win. Nature is extremely forceful. And this is something that I know as a living in a ranch. I've seen, you know, thunder, and I've breaking out a house. I've seen the power of nature, the magnitude, and you see it now. And I think that's why it's the call for action is as we speak. And I think that a lot of people has woken up to it. I really think people were just saying, oh, we're all going to go back to the same habits. I'm like, no, some people woke up to it. Maybe some will go back to the same habits, but I think others are connected to the collective.
So in terms of fashion, you think it's partly people should buy less and better things? They should travel less or less thoughtlessly? I think
it's one of the, so I've kind of done this little graph to explain in a instructive way that it can be assimilated. It's a circular. So one of the first things that we need to do for all industries, not only fashion, is decarbonize, right? Yeah. Reduce our addiction and dependency to fossil fuels, because people forget that fossil fuels are just dead organisms from another geological epoch that we extract from this earth, right? We push them down we burn them and we push them through the atmosphere that has been warming up as well. And that what we found out recently was that the oceans have been trapping all the heat. So if it wasn't for the oceans, we already surpassed the 1.5 Celsius. That it's really, we cannot go through that breaking point, because after that we have just lost all type of predictability to climate. And then they have acid, then the oceans also get the acidification process. So fossil fuels is the number one thing that we need to move super fast. There's some blocks that already have this as a deadline. Europe is looking at 2035 to do the last car that is oil dependent. And then you have the component, so you have fossil fuels, then you have the component of overproduction and overconsumption. That they are connected, right? So if we overproduce, we push the overconsumption. So, and here is a matter of waste management. Waste management is one of the main things we can do for conservation, which is a lot of the work that needs to be done. 30% can be just done by conservation. And so what happens if you think about waste and design, there's no waste in nature. So for sure, buying consciously, buying not in like how crazy had become in the past few decades. I wasn't brought up with this buying craziness. I only experienced it as an adult in living in New York, but it's just something that I think that we need to think about. Why do we need this? Do we buy in excess? Like really think about it, right? Be conscious about what you consume. And then to that, the rehabilitation and conservation of our water, our biodiversity, our nutrients. So they all go connected. So removing ourselves from fossil fuel addiction, waste management, understanding, and then conservation.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, let's look at the next picture.
This is Diana bag, by the way.
Oh, yes, yes, which was such a cool one.
Yeah, that's the Diana bag, and it's really, it's a beautiful bag. And then here you have the Nina and Demis in different shapes and materials. And you have the Beavers bag, which is named after a friend of mine, which is a designer, Stuart Beavers. He designs for Coach, and he's married to one of my best friends. And I made that bag for him. It's one of the few bags that has a male name. Mm-hmm. And then that's the crochet cashmere tote bag that goes across.
Fabulous. And the next one?
Oh, you really pick up good ones, huh? So these are my rings. These are the rings that we do at GH. For a long time, people said to me I should do jewelry, and I finally did it in a way that I was looking at a painting in the Prado Museum, and they had these rings. Is the presentation of the Christ, the painting by Quentin Massey, and they had all these men were wearing all these rings. So this is inspired by men's rings, and they are howlite, lapis lazuli, and malachite and tigerite on gold. So there's something, again, this is our first pieces of jewelry, but there's something very timeless about it.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, do you think, how has your designing career changed over the years? I mean, how has it developed, your aesthetic?
I think that my aesthetic is quite constant, I would say. It's just evolving, and as I learn and I understand more, and I educate myself with the subjects that I study, obviously that implements it. But in the raw base of it, it's quite constant. Like somebody sent me a picture of me dressed at 16 years old, and I was like, I would wear that today. You know. So there's something very constant about it. It's just more about, you know, techniques or learning about certain things that I want to learn how to craft, or it's more about, right now we're really experimenting with vegetable dyes, because I think it's a really interesting way that we've used to vegetable dye our clothing for so many centuries, and so for millennia actually. And so I think that this is something that I would say the base has not evolved, because it's like the seed is the constant, but the technicality and the craft hopefully got improved. Yeah. And but I think that the main change, I would say, it's how much purpose there is into me doing this work. Like what really keeps me going is really figuring out a way that we can do business and we can create with a lower impact to our environment.
It's really an important goal. It's really crucial. I think that more and more of us in fashion realize that.
I'm really like, it's kind of really great. So this one, I made this sweater when I competed in the Woolmark Prize, and it's the rum ovaries. Yeah. And it was like, I kept on looking at pictures of ovaries, because it was the new administration came in, and there was threats on Planned Parenthood, and Cecile Richards was the head at the time. I had huge admiration, and so I made this sweater to give me strength when I competed in the Woolmark. But at the same time, when I was being judged in the panel, Victoria Beckham told me, that's a really good sweater. She told, because it was about wool, right? Yeah. The Woolmark Prize. And she said, you should make it. And so I said, you know what, you're right, because she was one of the judges. And so we did it, but with a partnership with Planned Parenthood.
Mm-hmm. Can you still acquire it? Is it still available?
I think we're kind of done with them. We didn't do that many.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
this
wow.
is the lady.
Tell us about this. How did this come about?
Oh my God. So, I mean, obviously it's a dream, right? That your outfit is worn in the inauguration day, but especially in this election.
Yeah.
And there was so much meaning into doing this outfit because it's dead stock cashmere embroidered in a garment district. Everything is made in the US, and it has a sophistication that you can, you know, rivals to nothing to the Paris Maisons. And so it's practically couture. It's couture.
Yeah.
And for me, even got more meaning after, because of course we were doing this, we knew before the riots, the Capitol riots, that we were doing this outfit. And the fact that the riots happened and we were doing this outfit, it was so important for us to be part of in a little way, on this big moment that showed that America can do sophistication, that was not really what America was, that didn't really represent us, who we were. And so it was a way of being able to say how we are a sophisticated country that's full of people from all over the world. And Joe Biden is an educator. And for me, and from all the research, and everyone agreed that education is the key to solve a lot of the things that took us to the Capitol. So to that moment. So I think that there's so much symbolism and so much hope too in this outfit for me, because I have high hopes for her as a first lady, because she's a teacher.
Yes. Yeah, it's so beautiful. The symbolism of the flowers and a kind of rebirth and the natural world is really perfect. It's such a magical.
It's each flower of every state of the United States, because unity is one of the key tools that we need to get out of any crisis. Any crisis, any shape, any scale, you need unity to get out.
Yeah, very true. Now, you've also recently started designing for Chloé.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, how did it come about, and how is your eponymous business different from the designs you do for Chloé?
So Chloé, to design for Chloé was always a dream, and to be able to scale up all the lessons we learned in research and development on sustainability at Gabriela Hearst gave an opportunity to be able to put those in practice on a larger scale, and then because there's more manpower, to be able to account these efforts and to be able to show progress to the plan. And so it's from aesthetic point of view, I differentiate them from Chloé being Aphrodite and Gabriela Hearst being Athena. And there is a point where they both mix, right? In the sense of value system, belief system, making sure that the materiality has a low impact to the environment, and all those things that matter to me personally. Obviously, they're going to be reflected in both places. But I think that there's a different sort of softness to the Chloé woman, but not lacking of strength. I think that it's just another way of doing product, and also you're working with different teams, so it's gonna be different. It's gonna turn out into a different type of product. But also what Gabriela Hearst has, which is a much smaller brand, and we have a very light team, everything is able to, we can work with the best materials in the world because we have a very light structure. So that's a very different, it's more, I would say Gabriela Hearst has less industrialization.
Yeah. Now, if you were not a designer, what would you be doing?
Right now, I think I would be 100% devoted to do anything possible to work with climate change and climate injustice. And I believe that this is why I'm a designer, because it's kind of what I have some sort of talent for, and some sort of people resonate to it. So it comes in a natural world. So this is natural way. So this is my medium. So I think through my medium, I'm able to do also the work that drives me.
Yeah. And finally, with just the last image, I'm wondering what, if any, impact do you think it has on your work that you're a woman?
Everything. I'm feeling very, I feel like it's so good to see all these, because they're like key moments that you choose on these photos. I'm really touched, really. I wasn't expecting this. This is our showroom in Paris. And I really had this, we had to have a place in Paris to show our collections. And I didn't understand why other designers didn't rent a full place, because it was so much economical than just renting it for the key places of market. Now I know, because it was a pain in the ass to rent something in Paris. Yes. You have to like sign a lot of documents. But thank God we have French people with us, so we navigated from the bureaucracy. But this place has the herringbone wood, the Manos cashmere, and it was a great moment of knowing that you have your own spot in Paris. It made you feel more of a global brand.
Thank you so much for giving this interview. It's really, I think, going to be so important for the whole audience for the museum at FIT. We've got a lot of students and young designers and people who I think will really be moved and motivated by what you had to say.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been very, very inspiring and emotional to be able to reflect on, because sometimes you're doing the things and you're not really reflecting on it. But I think that I would say to young students, the world is yours. At this point, we're just guardians to trying to make sure that it's not completely screwed up. But I can't wait till you guys take over, and because the world is going to be a much better place.
Thank you, Gabriela. Thank you very, very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ciao.